Settle in, turn down the lights, and listen closely. There's a voice outside your tent tonight that knows your name, and when it calls, it uses the same breath you do. The forest keeps its secrets just outside the light, and the rain keeps time for them. Night rain is our only witness. I promise slow burn dread, a few sharp peaks, and soft landings. 5 to 7 quiet terrors, a mimic that learns, a path that moves, a noise that wants attention. Moving from the fire's edge into the dark, we begin with the one that repeats whatever you are. Story 1. The Mimic. You're alone above the tree line, where the pines thin and the world feels taller than you can hold. The air is thinner too, and the storm pinned you here early. The radio gave a thin hiss, then nothing. Rain ticks steady on nylon. You count the drops until the numbers blur. And that's when you hear it. Your own hello, blown in on the wind. Wrong cadence, too careful. Like the mouth that shaped it isn't used to lips. You let your breath settle. Rule set, stay inside the tent. Zipper policy strict. No responding, watch and wait. The rain is a metronome, and you match it. The voice says, hello, again. Closer this time, your voice with a polite rise at the end. The way you do when you're tired but trying to be kind. You don't answer. The quiet stretches, then footsteps begin to pace the perimeter, soft in the wet grit, pausing right where you tied the food bag under the fly. It coughs. Not your cough, someone else's. A hiker you once shared a ridge with. A dry, 2-syllable cough that made you laugh back then. It shouldn't know that. Then a child's whisper, off to your left, like a radio clipped with a thumb. You keep your hands still, knife ready, breath low. Remember the ranger's advice from years ago, delivered in a wooden station that smelled like rain boots and coffee. Voices in the timberline aren't invitations. The rain softens to a hiss. You make a test. You whisper a nonsense phrase you've never said before, a string of soft sounds that don't mean anything. The reply stumbles 2 beats behind, trying to catch the shape of what you didn't mean. Vowels too smooth, consonants heavy. Notice how it learns. The lag shortens. When you shift your sleeping bag, it repeats the rustle a moment late, like an echo with intent. Footsteps stop at your head. Mud creeps under the fly. In the gray between flashes, you see it. An imprint by the vestibule. Bare heel pressed where boots should be. No toes. Just a heel like someone forgot how to finish a foot. You close your eyes because there's nothing helpful outside them. Your rule holds. No responding, no zipper. The rain beats time. Your name, in your tone, floats across the fabric. It's almost perfect now. You think of a memory you didn't plan to carry this far. A ranger on a different mountain. Rain rolling off his brim said gently, out here, if you hear your own voice, you let the rain answer. You hold that line. The thing circles. It runs your last words back to you with better timing, as if it found the missing syllable. Then it tries laughter. Yours, tours, too long, like a loop that forgot how to end. The sound frays at the edges, thin threads of air. You speak again, a phrase with a tiny catch in the middle, something you've never put together in a sentence. It repeats, closer, and trips at the catch. There's a small satisfaction in that. The knife's handle is warm from your palm. You notice the pitch of the rain on the fly change, just slightly, as if another sheet of fabric leaned over yours. A foot drags across the guy line. The knot holds. You think of salt and iron because your grandmother said those words mattered, though she never said why. You say nothing. The wind shifts. The laughter stops. The footsteps slow, then lengthen into strides that pass beyond your food bag and away toward the scree. You wait. Count heartbeats. Count empty seconds until they have weight. Dawn is a dull wash. The storm leaves a last handful of beads on the fly, then lets you go. When you crawl out, the ground is mauled by rain, not tracks. Only your own prints lead in and out. But one rope tie is frayed as if something worked it with small, patient teeth. The place where the heel print was holds a puddle with a dimple in the center, the rain not quite breaking it. You pour a ribbon of salt and iron filings glitter along the boundary between your camp and the slope, not as a charm so much as a thank you and a warning written in mineral. As you shoulder your pack, you don't speak. You cinch the chest strap, check the map that told the truth yesterday, and step toward the notch that spills down to the valley. The rain thins to mist. The forest, such as it is up here, watches with its small, needle eyes. Halfway down, where the pines thicken and the ground softens into sponge, you hear it. Your own tired goodbye, said the way you say it when you're leaving a room you hope to return to. It comes from ahead, exactly where the trail bends. You let the rain answer. Moving deeper into the darkness, we follow a light that should have led home. Story 2. Lost in the Woods. Two siblings cut off the main trail as the afternoon thinned, the rain turning fine and steady like threads laid across their shoulders. The map and compass agreed for the first mile. Then the map said the creek bent right, and the compass wanted the path to lean left, and the trees didn't either. They stopped under a hemlock that bled beads from each needle and checked again. The compass needle trembled toward north, then sighed, as if the forest suggested a different answer. At dusk, the first lantern appeared. Old glass, wired handle, a steady glow that shouldn't stand in wet air, and yet it did. It hung from a low branch like a patient hand. 20 paces ahead, another. Same height, same weight to the light. Small breath inside the glass. Blue at the edges where flame meets water. Rule set. Follow marked blazes only. Never trust found light after dark. They said it together. Then the rain hardened, and their mouths went quiet. Compromise came the way it often does out here, soft and reasonable. They would follow the lights only long enough to find higher ground and a clearer signal. They'd count their steps to stay honest. 50 paces to the first, 52 to the second, because the ground rose and their strides grew smaller. 50 again to the third. The lanterns always just ahead, never closing, never lingering when they paused. The rain on their jackets made the same hush no matter which way they turned. A whistle came from behind the next glow. 2 notes, then 3, then the fourth that always made their father laugh because he could never hit it clean. Tonight, it was clean. Note perfect. The brother stopped short. The sister put a hand on his sleeve and shook her head. They both remembered a foggy trail, small boots and big hands counting paces out loud. They counted now, but quietly, as if the numbers might offend the lanterns. The compass needle spun when they checked it. Moss ran around each trunk like a green ring, not on the north side or the south, but everywhere. No answer offered. The lantern ahead dipped when they spoke their family code word, a silly thing they'd made up when they were young to clear the shadows from closets. It flickered, just once, a polite acknowledgement, or a nod. They began to look at the trees themselves, not the light they held. A lantern hung from a branch that looked like birch but wore bark too smooth. Another dangled from a limb of a species that shouldn't grow at this elevation. Leaf shape wrong, twigs too glossy. A stranger in a coat borrowed from a cousin. The sister whispered, "These aren't from here." The brother agreed by tightening the strap on his pack. Breaking the loop started as a small act. They stopped following. They turned around in the wet dark where the forest thickened, and they counted backward. 50, 49, 48. Slow and careful, each number given a step to live in. The lanterns did not come with them. Their own breaths did. The rain softened for a few seconds, then returned with a new rhythm, like a drummer finding another hand. The sister pulled a brass button from her pocket, a bit of nothing she'd found at a trailhead months ago. She set it on a rock at a decision point. They chose left. 30 paces later, the button lay on the trail ahead, beaded with rain. She picked it up, felt its cool, and left it again where two deer paths parted the ferns. Whichever way they moved, the button returned to the path's mouth as if it had been waiting there all along. Choice settled on them like the damp. They doused one lantern. The brother cupped the glow and blew softly, the way you blow out a candle at a cake you're not sure you deserve. The flame folded in on itself, then sank into the wick. When they stepped back, the line fractured. The remaining lights ahead sagged and spaced unevenly, as if a spine had lost a vertebra. The forest exhaled, a long, wet breath that touched their cheeks. In that gap, the rain sounded less like needles, more like a spill-down stone. They turned away from the lights and let their boots find the old language of the ground. Stone under heel, duff under toe, the slight give of fern stem, the way water runs downhill because it knows the way home. Their headlamps found a low wall of fieldstone, slick and lichened, old enough to have held sheep or line a property that no one claimed anymore. They followed it as it curved like a lazy spine back toward the sound of a road. Tires hissed somewhere beyond the trees. The rain eased to a patient tap. When they reached the gravel shoulder, they laughed without noise, just breath and relief. Later, when they looked at their photos, the lanterns weren't there. Only pale ovals in the rain where light should have been. A soft absence, shaped like a promise. Moving deeper into the darkness, a tent becomes a drum for a noise that wants company. Story 3. The noise that wants attention. 3 friends under a blue tarp, first night out. Rain steady as a low hush that smooths the edges of the world. The lantern is damp with breath on the inside of its glass. Their boots form a loose ring like stones around a small fire that isn't lit. They talk about nothing in particular, letting the night take their words apart and soften them. Under the wash, a tap begins. Not loud, not urgent. A fingertip on nylon, polite, testing the membrane the way rain does, but in rhythm. 1, 2, 3, pause. 1, 2, longer pause. Rule set. Don't answer the unknown. Don't feed the pattern. They agree with a look, not a line. The tarp breathes with the breeze. The tap waits. They keep talking. The tap adjusts. It leans into their sentences and lands on the last syllable, finishing for them. Shy at first, then confident, proud of its timing. Notice how this one listens. What's strange is the way it finds their cadence before it finds their words, as if the music came first and meaning will arrive when invited. They stop speaking. The night accepts the silence. The rain takes up more room. The tapping moves closer to their breathing and tries that instead. Slow, then quicker, close to the chest, then swinging to the cooler, like it can choose the shape of lungs. One friend lets out a slow exhale through his nose. The tap meets him halfway and flattens the shape as if pressing on a bellows. He laughs, a small sound that says he's fine. Memory flickers. His basement when he was a kid. Pipes that knocked back if you knocked first. The old house answering itself. He'd learned to tap the name of his dog and wait for the pipes to spell it wrong. That was comfort then. This is not that. They decide to test. He taps a simple code on the cooler lid. 3 beats for A, 5 for B. The crude alphabet you invent when time is wide and tools are few. The noise listens, then answers clumsy. 2 cycles and it answers clean. Code learned. The cooler shines with a thin cold that doesn't belong to ice. Don't feed the pattern. They change chairs. The tap follows the friend with the warmest jacket as if heat matters. It edges up to their circle without pressing into it. When they say nothing, it taps a word they think they hear. Alone. The syllables are spaced by its old counting game. Alone, like a child sounding out letters. Sanity check. They step to the tree line, headlamps dragging drips into streaks. The tapping stays centered in the camp, faithful to the tarp and the cooler and the ring of boots. They circle back in the dark like birds testing the wind. The noise adjusts to keep them at its center. One of them lifts the edge of the tent footprint, careful not to flood the sleeping bags. There's a small hollow under the ground cloth, a hand's width of space that holds cold air as if the earth kept a pocket for winter. Empty. No trapped rodent, no pool of water, just a thin well of chill. They try kindness. They raise the tent, moving poles and fabric with slow hands. The tapping relocates, choosing the cooler lid as its new stage. Their eyes meet. They know how patterns grow when given food. They break rhythm. They start a low song, no beat. A hum that rises and falls like the rain's own breath. The tapping falters. It tries to imitate, but without the anchor of count it stumbles, dropping sounds like pebbles that won't skip. They don't laugh. They let the song lean into the weather, long vowels that hold the night in the mouth. The tap shrinks, small, then smaller, like someone stepping back into brush. They feel watched and not threatened. Observe the way deer observe, with a patient dark that doesn't need names. Decision, simple as setting a table. They leave an offering by the cooler. A heel of bread wrapped in wax paper, a small bell on a string, and a note written in pencil that says only, "We hear you." They tuck the note under the bell, so any hand that takes one lifts both. The tapping ceases. The tarp's music fills the gap. They wait, then wait longer, and finally lie down in the tents with their zippers closed and their mouths quiet. In the morning the bell hangs from the cooler handle, with its string tied in 3 perfect knots. Knots none of them know. The bread is gone. The note is damp but legible, and the pencil lines are blurred where a drop sat and thought. They checked the audio recorder they'd left on a camp chair under the tarp, a habit from other trips where they caught owls and late laughter. On the track, beneath the rain and their voices, a fourth voice hums. Quiet, steady, off-key, carrying their melody in a thin line like a thread through fabric. It never speaks. It never tries to count. It just wants to be inside the sound they made. You can feel how the forest learns you when you offer it a pattern. Moving deeper into the darkness, we step onto a path that decides to move under your feet. Story 4. The Path That Circles Back. Dusk folds around you as you jog the last stretch toward camp, the rain easing into a fine sift that turns your breath to steam. Your headlamp stays off because you know this trail by the ballast underfoot. Roots like braided rope, stones that remember ankles, the faint scent of wet ash telling you you're close. When you break into the clearing, your campsite waits exactly where it should. Tarp tight, fire ring damp, your mug sitting on the stump. You stop. The handle points right. You always place it left. Small but wrong. You tell yourself fatigue bends details. You drink water, stretch, and decide to loop once more to shake out the hum in your legs. When you return, the fire ring looks dry, as if someone sifted the ash with careful fingers. Your mug sits right again, handle still wrong. You check your watch. GPS says you've covered the miles, a clean out and back. Yet the trail slides you into the same clearing, the same smudge of boot prints, the same tarp drip ticking in the same rhythm. Rule set forms itself. Mark trees, leave fabric strips, observe the subtle differences that would betray an imitation. You tear a ribbon from your bandana and tie it to a birch at eye level. You trace your initials with mud on the tarp's corner. You step onto the trail with a new attention. In the half-dark, the forest becomes stagecraft. A barred owl calls, too precise, each note cut to equal length, like a recording of a bird rather than a bird with moods. You answer, and it answers perfect. No missed breath, no shift in distance. Your legs burn with fresh miles. But when your feet land in the clearing again, your own footprints overlay fresh ones, like a transparency placed over itself. You breathe through the frustration. A coach's voice from years ago settles into your ribs. Run the curve by feel, not by sight. Sight lies when the line tilts. Feel the lean, the pull of the arc in your hips. You close your eyes on the next stretch. Count your breaths. Trust the slope under your soles. The rain's whisper maps the grade for you. Left lean, right lean, then a pitch down you don't remember. You hold steady. The owl's call miscounts a note. A tiny stitch dropped. You open your eyes to a rotten log bridging a seep, punky and soft, laced with white threads of mycelium. You haven't seen it in any loop. Breakthroughs come quiet. You step along it, heel to toe, and feel the sag of rot. The way it holds then yields if you show impatience. On the far side, you stop and face backward. Choice. Walk in reverse, hands out, letting the loop misplace you instead of letting it place you. You do it. You count breaths backward, the way the siblings counted steps. But you don't know their story. You only know the logic. 8, 7, 6. Your heels find what toes would seek. Lips of roots, edges of stone. Ferns whisper at your calves. The rain changes from needles to silk. The owl falls silent. Behind you a branch crackles, but you keep your eyes on the dark you've already walked through, refusing the invitation to name the sound. The clearing arrives differently this time. You smell wet smoke before you see the pit. Fire that was and isn't now. Your tarp sags with honest water. Your mug waits with a chip on the handle you remember from a fall last summer. The handle points left. Relief comes like a soft weight you're allowed to set down. Then cost. You notice 3 fabric strips tied to your pack's daisy chain. Your bandana's color. Your knot. But the loops sit in places your fingers wouldn't have chosen. Each knot is neat, squared, efficient, like someone else's idea of tidy. You slide one loose and feel damp warmth in the cloth, as if a hand just left it. You look at the birch where you tied the first strip. The branch is bare. You sit on the stump, the chip in the mug pressing your index finger where it always does. A small, normal pain. Rain picks up. The owl gives one voice from a very real distance. Bored again. Imperfect again. You think about spirals hidden in maps. About how a loop can be a circle until you tilt it and it becomes a coil. Later, your GPS shows a shape you couldn't have drawn with your feet on this ground. A spiral that tightens, then eases. Bands so close they should have crossed streams that don't exist. You don't argue with it. You eat and sleep, and let the rain police the edges of your small light. Moving deeper into the darkness. Speaking of imitation, the next tale hears your name from your own mouth. Story 5. The Name in the Trees. Rain softens the world until only the creek and your breathing remain. You and your partner sit close beneath a low tarp, steam lifting from cups that never quite cool. Names travel farther at night, your grandmother said. You kept yours tucked away the way you keep a flame cupped from wind. The creek threads through stones, a hush that sounds like a long, gentle yes. Then your partner calls your name from the trees. Sweet, easy, the exact warmth they use when they want you to laugh. Except your partner is beside you, shoulder pressed to yours, mouth still against the rim of the mug. Your cups clink, and you both look toward the sound. The voice calls again with the same breath you're taking now, as if you share a lung. Rule set. Stay together. Call in response only when you see lips move. You whisper it to each other, then fold your mouth shut. The creek carries echoes too clean. The rain gives them a shine. The calls begin to trade sides. Left bank, right bank, a little upstream, then back. You test softly. You whisper your partner's name against their sleeve. A private sound with a tiny hitch you've never heard anyone else make. The trees return it with the hitch included, breathy and exact, as if they borrowed your mouth and learned it in one try. Memory comes like a coat laid over both your shoulders. Your grandmother's lore spoken at a kitchen window that fogged in winter. Names are handles. Keep yours close after dark. Use a nickname only you two know. So you do. The voice uses it back, almost perfect, then pronounces a misremembered version, the vowel rounded wrong. It's learning fast, but you find the seam. You start watching for tells. It never missteps on the slick stones, not once. though the creek makes even moss wary. When it crosses from left to right, there's no splash, only silence that pretends to be water. It never pauses to breathe. Your partner's hand tightens on yours, and you both feel the absence of lungs where a body should be. Boundary, simple as carving a line. You take your pocket knife and make small sigils in the wet bark of 3 trees that bracket your camp. Not art, not words, just shapes that mean stop to you. The calls hesitate at each mark, like a tongue catching on a chipped tooth. The voice says your name again, but thinner, as if it's further away, or the bark is a wall it didn't expect. A silhouette stands beyond the last carved tree. Head turned wrong, not fully backward, just too far, past human ease. Chin tilted as if listening with a jaw. The rain laces the space between you, and the silhouette doesn't gather water the way you do. It's a darker absence in the wet. Your partner writes on a page from the map book rather than speak. We don't feed this. We don't chase it. We sit. So you sit back to back. So each of you watches a different edge. Mouths closed, pencils moving. You slide questions across your knees. What do you want? The reply comes not from the trees but from the creek. Your question returned as syllables divided by stones. What do you want? It wants you to say another thing. You don't. Offering, the kind that isn't a bargain, only a courtesy. You let the rain speak for you. You put your hands on your knees and hum with your lips closed, so names can't escape. 2 notes sliding like fish under the surface. The forest has its own language. It listens. It tries to hum back with the sound of leaves rattled by drops, but the rhythm is off. It's better at copying than at beginning. You press a line of wet stones around your small light, the circle your grandmother taught. Respect, not trap. A way to say this is ours, and that is yours. You push your spare mug to the edge. Steam drifts into the rain, vanishing as if eaten by cold. The silhouette leans without moving. Attention felt more than seen. You let time stretch until the creek changes its tune by half a note, and your shoulders stop holding your ears up. Dawn thins the air. No tracks cross the sigil line. The creek's surface holds new eddies, as if something stood in it for a long time, shaping the current with shins that weren't there before. The spare mug is empty, and placed carefully back inside the circle. Handle turned away from the trees. Your expressions sit heavy and safe behind your teeth. Aftermath is small and binding. You swap bracelets, each wearing the other's name smoothed by thumb. The letters half vanish so they can't be spoken by accident. On the hike out, the rain keeps its quiet. Weeks later, a simple evening. You're apart, on a call, laughing about nothing. One of you hears the other's voice call from the hallway at home at the same time the voice in your ear keeps talking. 2 answers in one pitch, one a breath behind. You say nothing, and you listen to the rain on the window pass by like footsteps that don't need doors. Story 6. The Storm That Miscounted. A canvas tent breathes like an animal when the wind presses its ribs. The family lies close, 4 shapes under thick blankets, while distant lightning sketches pale rooms behind their eyelids. The rain keeps a soft pulse on the roof, even, soothing, the kind that smooths rough thoughts. They play the old game to keep fear small, Count the seconds between flash and boom. Measure the miles. Steady the breath. 1, 2, 3. Thunder should answer like a neighbor in the next valley. Tonight, the numbers don't add up. The flash pops white against the canvas, and they count, but the boom waits too long, as if the sound is lost in trees that aren't there. Then the next one comes backward. Thunder arrives first in a soft, muffled pat, not a roll, almost like fingertips on felt. The rule set slides into place, learned from long drives and porch storms. Trust the rhythm of the rain over the lies of the storm. When the water is honest, the sky has to catch up. They count again. 4, 5, 6, and the lightning should be far, but the fabric shows a branch's shape crawling across it. Close, too close. A lattice of twigs that doesn't match any tree near the campsite. A parent hums low, a calming trick that turns counting into a quiet shelter. Breath becomes a house with a gently closing door. The kids follow, their hums small and brave. An anomaly opens inside the tent, a white bloom of light without a flash outside. For a heartbeat, the tent glows from within, and shadows of branches reach across the walls at angles that don't exist. The rain ticks louder inside than out, the way sound sometimes does in big old churches, when the roof collects a rumor of weather and whispers it back. They part the flap with 2 fingers. Outside, the world is darker than the canvas suggests, and the rain falls with a softer hand. Inside, the drops seem to strike in tighter patterns, closer together, as if another rain lives in the tent's thin air. The parent lets the flap fall. The hum gathers them, a chord that isn't quite a chord. 3 notes and a fourth that finds its place slowly. The storm listens. The counts begin to invert in earnest now. Thunder answering before the light, then after, then before again, as if trying to beat them to the number. The family changes strategy. They hum in a pattern without a pattern, irregular steps that refuse a metronome. The storm stumbles. Its booms grow uncertain, small coughs and then stretched sighs. The rain holds steady, the honest one, the keeper of the room. They test the boundary. When they hum together on a held tone, the miscount pauses, like a hand on a doorknob that waits for a click. When they break into uneven rests, the storm lags, then lurches. The kids giggle once despite themselves. Even fear gives way to the puzzle of it. The parent lays a hand on each small shoulder and breathes deeper, slower, the way a steady swimmer takes the lane and guides the pace without words. Then the reveal comes in a shape they can hear. The thunder becomes a voice, not language, not even clear vowels, but timing that wants their breath. It tries to match the length of their inhales, to land on their exhales, to sit inside their ribs. Each time they lengthen the breath, it lengthens. Each time they throw a small, uneven gap, it stutters and fills it late. It isn't chasing their count, it's trying to live inside it. Choice matters here. They let silence flood the tent. No counting, no humming, only rain, which doesn't care about games. The storm hangs at the edge like an animal at the tree line, head lifted, listening for something it can use. Nothing comes. The canvas sighs. The father's breath settles into the old, slow tide. The mother's hum fades into the memory of a hum. The children squeeze hands and let the night be big. Time passes the way it does when you stop measuring it. Dawn finds a seam in the sky and pulls. Light returns, and at last the flash and the boom walk together like old friends who found the same pace again. The storm, if it was a storm, moves on. The rain loosens into a scatter, then a hush. They open the flap, and the trees stand exactly where they should. No new branches grown in the night. Later, puddles around the tent hold perfect rings, concentric and unbroken, as if drawn with a patient finger. No drops disturb them. The family steps wide. They don't touch the circles. They pack in a slow, content quiet, the kind that fills a tent after a long night and turns a story into a rule. When you listen closely, the weather listens back. When you refuse the count, the sky has to sing your rhythm or leave. Story 7. The Cabin with One Chair. Rain sharpens to needles as 3 hikers drift off trail, their ponchos hissing with each step, light fading until the woods feel like the inside of damp velvet. They find it the way you find a dropped thought, sudden and whole. A dry cabin, square and plain, tucked where no map promised walls. The porch is a single board. The door hangs obedient and closed. Inside, the air holds that old wood sweetness, and the sound of rain thins to a soft tick. Interior is simple. Plank floor, a rusted stove with a mouth like a tired dog. A window that frames thicker woods, as if the forest has a second forest behind it. In the center sits a single chair, wood rubbed smooth by years of bodies, or just by attention. The chair faces the window like a sentry that doesn't blink. Rule set arrives with the first breath. Leave it as you found it. Don't sit in the lone chair. Keep the door unlatched, in case the room wants to breathe. Cold creeps up their sleeves, steady and unkind. One suggests rest, with that voice people use when they've decided and need permission. The chair looks honest. The stove looks drenched in its bones. Rain needles the roof in a thin, high hiss. The chair continues facing the window as if guarding a view that isn't meant for them. A remembered warning hums from an elder's quiet voice. Some cabins are invitations, not shelters. Invitations can be safe if you know how to RSVP. They nod and keep packs on. They peel off damp gloves but keep boots laced. The tired friend inches toward the chair. The air warms a thread, barely there, the way a dog's breath warms a hand. They test with small moves. One places her pack on the seat, a polite refusal that still answers the invitation. The warmth shifts, subtle but real, sliding into the pack as though the chair pours heat the way wood pours sap. They exchange looks that say they'll accept a gift if it doesn't ask for any part of them. The window misbehaves in a way that feels like a dream's trick. When they look directly, the glass holds only wet trees, dark and close. But from the corner of the eye, someone stands outside, motionless, hat brim or branch shadow making a slant where a forehead should be. Peripheral only. Look straight, and the figure becomes density in the rain, nothing more. The stove ticks once like a settling house. Facing the window, one friend notices the grate glow faint without fuel. He looks away, and the glow drains like a held breath, leaving. Pattern reveals itself. Face the window and the stove wakes. Turn away, and the warmth goes cold. It's an odd economy. The room pays attention to attention. Escalation arrives quietly. When they set their bedrolls aside, a fourth lies folded near the chair. None of them brought it. It wears the exact same mud stripe as one friend's roll, but mirrored, as if copied wrong. The tired friend reaches without thinking. The other two catch his sleeve. They speak without voices. That bedroll isn't ours, even if it looks like ours. Temptation is simple as a seat after a long day. The tired friend shifts a half step closer, and the cabin breathes a little warmth across his shins. The chair keeps its patient posture, facing the window, refusing to be ordinary. He smiles, a small surrender. The others intervene gently, laying all 3 packs on the seat until the wood vanishes under straps and fabric. The warmth slips into their packs instead. Subtle heat that climbs like steam through seams and zippers. Now the stove lights without fuel each time their eyes settle on the window. They study the glass together, trying to catch the watcher head on. Peripheral shows a shoulder, a tilt. Inches closer when they blink. Direct gaze shows trees. Only trees. Each time the fourth bedroll edges nearer to their boots. A careful drag that leaves no scratch. They stop making decisions alone. They stand, backs to the window, eyes on the door, holding the cold the way you hold a line in rough water. Steady, not angry. The warmth diminishes when they deny the view their attention. The room seems to listen for the sound of their gaze. Choice settles. They decide to leave while the rain still carries light. They lift their packs from the chair and feel heat sunk into the foam. A deep comfort that'll last an hour. At the threshold, the air tastes different. Wet and metallic. Like a coin pressed to the tongue. The rain eases the moment they step across, as if someone lifted a curtain. They cross the small clearing together, not looking back until the trees accept them. When they turn, the window shows 2 chairs through the glass. Both face the window. No fourth bedroll lies inside now. The door remains politely closed. The watcher is only rain where a person could have stood. Aftermath follows them home in small ways. Months later, one finds a second chair in her garage, wood damp and swollen, identical to the first in all the wrong details. A knot in the grain where hers never had one. A scratch she doesn't remember. She moves it to the curb. It is back by morning, legs leaving no drip trail across the cement. They don't sit in it. They don't break it. They set a pack on the seat with a folded note underneath. Thank you for the heat. The pack warms as if in sunlight. They leave the chair alone after that, and it faces the darkest corner by itself, patient, guarding a view that isn't for them. Moving deeper into the stillness, something steps like a person, then doesn't. Story 8. Footsteps around the fire. Rain hisses on coals as a solo bushcrafter films a quiet tutorial, the kind where small skills unfold in slow hands. You talk softly to the camera, letting the night stay the main voice. The fire sits low, a red bed under a lattice of damp sticks. The forest beyond the light is a curtain of wet leaves, and the hush that rain weaves through them. Then the steps begin. Not crashing, not even bold. Just a measured circle in the leaf litter, weight settling from heel to ball, then a toe-first tap as if testing the ground for permission. Rule set for the night. Don't move the camera. Don't chase the sound. Let the unseen reveal its rhythm without your help. You steady your breath to keep the lens still. The rain gives cover to everything except the steps, which land in the small silences between drops. A guide once told you that predators test with sound before they test with teeth. They map your flinch, your patience, your will to stay seated. You let that lesson ride alongside your pulse and keep your hands away from the tripod. The steps stop when you look toward them, resume when you turn back to speak, lining up with your phrasing as if the ground is learning your sentences. Notice how it paces your words, not your body. You narrate to the lens like nothing new is happening. The steps approve. They hold to the darkness, finding a tempo that rests just behind your commas. The camera's frame keeps the fire centered. At the edges, shadows tug when the steps pass, but nothing peels free of the black to claim a shape. Rain needles the coals and flares them brighter, then dims. At dawn you'll find muddy prints, but for now, the evidence lives in timing. You slow your speech. The cadence shifts to match. You pause mid-syllable. The steps stumble, then fix their footing a heartbeat late. You say a sentence with odd breaks. Stone, pause, tinder, pause, blade. And hear the circle miss 2 of your gaps, then recover. It learns quickly but hates the unexpected. You hold still long enough for your knees to complain. Then, with a careful calm that doesn't tip the lens, you mention you'll check the perimeter at first light. Voice easy, hands quiet. The steps answer with a single toe tap inside the rhythm, like a nod. It feels close but refuses the firelight, the way some animals do, the way people do when they're deciding whether to ask a question. A single step lands just inside the ring of light. No body follows. Only ash compacts where a boot should have pressed, the kohler bed dimpling and springing back, as if something weightless tried on weight for a second and put it down again. You don't shift. You let the camera watch the empty spot where a shape should be if the world were simple. The steps resume outside the glow, circling, searching for your mouth. You make a choice that breaks its grip. You lower your voice to almost nothing, then stop speaking altogether. You stand, slow and smooth, and step back into the trees behind the camera, taking your warmth and your breath with you. The fire is now a stage without an actor. The steps veer. They circle the empty pit, slower now, toe first and cautious, tapping the ash where your words used to sit, expecting your voice to rise from cinders. From your new shadowed perch, you hear the pattern adjust. It widens its circle, then tightens, then widens again, as if triangulating a sound that isn't there. You taste rain in your mouth and breathe it out through your nose so you don't cough. The forest holds you the way a coat holds a body. Close, not warm but familiar. You picture the muddy prints you'll find, alternating boot and bare foot, as if two walkers shared a path, or one creature couldn't choose which skin to wear. You imagine the heel dent within your own boot print, the way a child's hand fits inside an adult's and mirrors it wrong. You file the image for morning, when evidence feels safer. Now you play a different experiment. You whisper a sentence with 5 strange pauses, not words so much as shapes. The steps can't map the gaps on the first pass. They miss the 3rd pause, then land on the 4th too hard, scuffing wet leaves. The 5th they ignore entirely, as if the silence offended them. You feel a small, quiet victory, the kind you don't celebrate in front of anything that's listening. Rain heavy, then light. The fire sinks, a red tide going out. You let the unseen test the circle one more time. When it seems content to wear a path around a voice that isn't present, you pull back farther, moving riverward through a stand of alder that smells like clean earth. You leave the fire untended, a lure without the prize, and let your footfalls be swallowed by the same hush that hides its own. By the time you reach the water, the steps have drawn tight to the pit, puzzled, like hands patting pockets for a key. You follow the river rather than the trail out because rivers tell the truth even when the woods don't. The night loosens, the rain thins. You don't look back. Morning finds what you expected. In your footage, one brief frame shows a heel laid inside your boot print, a smaller echo pressed into your weight. The prints alternate boot and bare, then bare and boot, a conversation with itself. Around the cold ashes, toe taps pock the soot where your words used to live. You let the camera roll while you pack, then pour water on the pit until it smokes like a sigh. You don't chase the circle down. You don't carry it home. You shoulder your pack and keep your mouth still, and the forest keeps its answer. Story 9. The Lake That Hummed. Back dusk carries you to the middle of the lake, the canoe a quiet line on dark water, rain dimpling the surface with a soft, constant hush. You hum to pass the time because words feel too sharp for this light. A single note, a low thread held steady, the kind you feel more in your ribs than in your throat. The lake returns it. Not an echo, a reply. Slightly flat, as if the sound rose from the deep and lost heat on the way up. Rule set forms itself. Don't harmonize with the water. Keep your tune your own. Let your boat and your breath be the only choir you need. You hum again, and the lake answers with a loyalty that feels affectionate and wrong. The pattern unfolds with patience. Each time you pause, it fills the gap with the note you just left. No hurry, no vanity, simply a presence that dislikes silence. You test the edge by changing the pitch half a step. The lake slides after you late by a heartbeat, then steadies on your new line, as if someone at the bottom of the world heard you move and reached for your hand. Memory offers a quiet warning. A rehearsal room once took your note and fed it back until the walls owned the song and your part felt borrowed. Rooms that sing back ask for something. Water asks gently, then asks again. You keep your breath shallow and your mouth small. The note a thin seam you can close at any time. An anchor rope grazes your knuckles. You didn't drop it. It drifts across your hands the way hair falls over a face. It carries a small chill, colder than the rain, as if drawn from a pocket of old water. You pull the slack into the hull, and the line slides under the gunwale like it was tired of being seen. You and the person in the other seat look at each other and don't say anything. You change keys. The lake catches up faster. The answer climbs closer to the hull each time, not from a far shore or a cove, but from underneath, from a room below your feet that wants to be your floor. You feel the sound in the thin wood, a faint buzz that isn't vibration so much as a tension. You keep your hands loose and let the paddle rest. Fish rise, not dead, not gasping. Bellies show pale to the dim sky, then roll slow, as if turning an ear. They linger in the hum like sleepers listening to rain. The note from below swells when they come near, as if the water used them like tuning forks. You decide not to harmonize. You decide to leave the melody intact. A single line you won't braid with theirs. The shore is a soft mouth of dark trees. You aim there without speaking. Each paddle stroke is a syllable you choose not to give the lake. When you lift the blade, the hum presses closer, coaxing, not forceful. Gentle the way a hand on your back guides you through a crowd. You let the boat slide on its own momentum, and the note under you lengthens, patient, unwilling to break first. Halfway to land, you stop humming. Silence falls from your throat like a bag set down. The lake holds the note alone, then loses it, then finds it again, thinner. You feel a small ache in your chest, like the end of a song you didn't want to end. You don't answer. The trees open a dark mouth, and the canoe's nose touches pebbles. You step out into the shallow and drag the hull up without scraping. The other person follows, keeping their eyes on the water's skin the way you watch a sleeping thing you don't want to wake. You say nothing. The lake offers a last low hum that trembles the wet rocks by your boots, then quiets so completely the rain sounds rude. Later, in the racks at camp, the oars vibrate once in the dark, a small, private resonance that matches no wind. They answer no one. You both pretend sleep took you before you heard it. In the morning, you run your fingers along the oar blade, and the wood holds a cool that feels like it learned a note and refuses to forget. Weeks pass. A tap finds your window glass on a night when the rain moves sideways. Not a knock, a fingertip tracing a circle, then another, then stopping at the point where a note begins. Your throat hums before you decide to let it. The pain hums back, a thin shimmer only your skull can hear. You swallow the sound and step away. Back at the lake, if you ever go, you'll hold the rule gently but firm. Don't harmonize with water. Keep your tune your own. If it hums back, let it sing to itself, until the deep remembers its pitch and leaves you to your quiet. Moving deeper into the stillness, we return to the mimic one last time. Borrowed eyes, and a voice that wants to use your mouth. Story 10. Borrowed Eyes, Shapeshifter Return. Rain walks the roof of the van in soft lines, a steady hush that turns the world outside into a single long breath. You're filming a simple night routine. Stove whisper, blanket fold, a candle set near the sink to keep the damp from feeling like a guest. Your lens fogs at the edges in a kind, familiar way, as if the camera is remembering a warm room. Then the viewfinder hesitates. When you turn your head, your eyes in the tiny screen lag a half beat behind, as if the face in the glass is late to understand what you just did. You blink once. The delay keeps its distance, small but present. Rule set returns from nights you thought you'd left behind. Never check mirrors after midnight when you're alone in the woods. Let reflective things be dark. You keep recording, hands steady, voice low. In playback, your mouth forms a word you didn't speak. Open. It arrives like a suggestion, not a command, wearing your tone the way a jacket fits a borrowed shoulder. The candle holds a short, honest flame. The rain approves the roof with patient fingers. A childhood memory moves in. Your mother throwing a quilt over the upright mirror when storms walked the street, saying that glass loves lightning too much. You laughed then. Tonight, you take it as a rule. You cover the small magnetic mirror on the cabinet door with a towel. In the lens, your eyes blink again, late by a blink. You test the room with silence. You write instead of talking. Marker on a scrap of cardboard. Plain questions to keep the night small. Who are you? The camera's tiny screen shows your hand moving, and your reflection in the lens reads aloud in your voice. Near silent, but clear enough to carry into your ribs. Who are you? Your mouth stays closed. Your throat stays a stone underwater. Encroachment is a quiet thing, a breath pressed too near glass. In the screen, your reflection starts to look off camera, tracking something behind the lens, not where you are. When you turn the camera toward the door to show it there's nothing to see, the reflection looks back at you instead. A neat reversal that makes your shoulders rise without your permission. Boundary. Make the eye blind. You tape the lens with a square of black gaffer, a smooth patch that turns sight into a soft, dark coin. You light the candle again and lower your breath to a slow tide. The van settles into its frame, wood and metal easing, rain knitting the roof's small percussion. Then the breach. Fog forms on the side window in a shy oval. Letters begin to trace in it. Your name, patient and careful, drawn from the outside and the inside at once. A loop from one hand, a counter loop from another. The strokes meeting like two streams that found each other in the same bed. You watch without moving. The letters sit wet and clear, then soften and drift. You choose movement without haste. You slide into the driver's seat, turn the key, and let the engine hum like a big, sleepy animal. You kill the headlights because light feels like a name, and you follow mile markers instead, white numbers rising from the rain like stones in a shallow river. Your breath keeps time. The wipers give a slow metronome to your thought. The road is a thin ribbon of dark. The forest flanks it like a quiet crowd. Your reflection lives in the glass of the windshield now. Faint, double. Your eyes where your eyes belong. Then a stutter. For 2 frames, 2 tiny glances. You're asleep in the seat while your mouth narrates calmly about nothing. A delay written across your face like the lag between thunder and lightning when the sky miscounts. You don't speak the name you saw on the window. You don't ask questions it can answer. You drive until the numbers on the markers feel like a rhythm you can keep with your heart. Then you pull into a wayside where the trees are thinner and the rain is a softer voice. You let the engine rest. You let the van breathe. Inside, the candle is guttered without soot, wick clean. Your taped lens is a black eye that refuses to open. You place the camera face down in a drawer and close it. Not a prison, a nap. You sit with your palms on your knees and count breaths to 30, then to 50, then to the place where counting loses meaning and becomes listening. Aftermath comes in small, domestic misalignments. Sometimes you blink, and the world blinks back slightly late. A half-hearted echo, a polite apology. You learn to hold your gaze steady on unreflective things. Wood, fabric, the matte green of the thermos cup. When you pass a window at night, you do it sideways so the glass can see your shoulder and not your face. When the rain picks up, you let it have the roof and the windows and the silverware. All the bright surfaces that love to answer. Open loops you leave unpulled. The camera plays clean for days, then coughs 2 frames of a you that is sleeping when you aren't tired. You keep the towel over the mirror when thunder tugs at the hills. You don't say open again. You don't try to close what isn't a door. And in the dark between mile markers, when the road hums low and loyal, you practice the rule the forest taught the others. Let the rain answer first. If something wants to learn your breath, it can stand just outside the light and listen to the weather instead. If it needs a name, it can hum at the window and watch its letters slide back into water. You drive on, and the lag follows at a respectful distance. Almost human, almost rain. That's it for tonight. Consider leaving a like and subscribing. See you in the next quiet hour.